The rain pounded the streets of Chicago like a relentless accusation that night in 1998, soaking through my thin jacket as I stumbled out of the bar, the bitter taste of rejection still fresh on my tongue. I'd just been fired from my job at the auto shop for reasons that boiled down to who I loved, and in that moment, the world felt like it was closing in, ready to swallow me whole. But then I saw him, curled up in the alley behind the dumpster, shivering under a tattered newspaper, the mayor's son, discarded like yesterday's trash, his face bruised and his eyes hollow with a pain I recognized all too well. His name was Alex Hargrove, the golden boy of the city's political dynasty, or at least he had been until the scandal hit the papers 6 months ago. Mayor Hargrove, a staunch conservative with a campaign built on family values, had publicly disowned his only son after Alex was outed in a vicious tabloid expose. The article painted Alex as a deviant, a threat to the moral fabric of society, and overnight, he went from heir apparent to homeless outcast. I knew the story because everyone did. It was the talk of the town, fueling heated debates in diners and bars about sin, redemption, and the hypocrisy of power. But seeing him there, vulnerable and broken, ignited something in me, a fierce protectiveness born from my own hidden struggles. I approached cautiously, my heart racing. "Hey, you okay?" I whispered, kneeling down. He flinched at first, his blue eyes wide with fear, but then he recognized me. We'd crossed paths before, back in high school, where I was the quiet mechanics kid and he was the star quarterback. A fleeting connection, nothing more, but enough to make him lower his guard. "Ethan? Ethan Ramirez?" he murmured, his voice cracked from the cold. I nodded, helping him to his feet, and without a word, I draped my jacket over his shoulders. That simple act felt like defiance against the world that had cast us both aside. We ended up at my cramped apartment above the laundromat, the kind of place where the walls were thin and the heat was unreliable. I made him coffee, black and strong, and listened as he poured out his story. His father had caught him with another boy, a classmate, and the fallout was swift and merciless. He said I was no son of his. Alex choked out, tears streaming down his face. Threw me out with nothing but the clothes on my back. I sat there, absorbing his pain, my own memories surfacing. My parents' disappointed stares when I came out at 18, the subtle shunning from relatives who suddenly stopped calling. But I'd fought through it, built a life on my own terms, even if it meant hiding parts of myself to keep a job. As the night wore on, an unexpected bond formed between us. Alex wasn't the spoiled rich kid the media portrayed. He was thoughtful, introspective, with a dry wit that cut through the tension. We talked about everything. Our dreams, our fears, the suffocating expectations of a society that demanded conformity. I told him about my passion for restoring old cars, how it was my way of fixing what was broken in the world. He shared his love for literature, quoting passages from Whitman that spoke to forbidden loves. By dawn, as the rain tapered off, I knew I couldn't let him go back to the streets. "Stay here," I said firmly, "as long as you need." It was a risk. Harboring the mayor's son could invite trouble, but in that moment, it felt like the only choice that made sense. The next few days blurred into a routine of tentative normalcy. I found Alex some clothes from my closet, ill-fitting but clean, and he helped around the apartment, cooking simple meals that tasted like home. But the outside world intruded soon enough. Whispers followed us when we ventured out for groceries. Judgmental stares from neighbors who pieced together who he was. One evening, as we walked back from the corner store, a group of young men shouted slurs from across the street, their voices laced with the kind of hate that stemmed from ignorance and fear. Alex tensed, his hand brushing mine instinctively, and I squeezed it back, a silent promise of solidarity. Tensions escalated when Alex's story resurfaced in the local news. A reporter had spotted him, and suddenly, the mayor's office issued a statement denying any responsibility, calling Alex's situation a personal choice. It stung, but it also fueled Alex's resolve. "I won't hide anymore," he declared one night over dinner. We were sitting at my rickety kitchen table, the radio playing soft jazz in the background. I admired his courage, but worry gnawed at me. Chicago in the late 90s wasn't kind to openly gay men, especially one with a target on his back. Our connection deepened amid these challenges. Late-night conversations turned intimate, revealing vulnerabilities we'd both guarded fiercely. Alex confessed his fear of never being loved for who he was, and I shared my loneliness, the ache of relationships that fizzled because of societal pressures. One evening, as we sat on the fire escape watching the city lights, he leaned his head on my shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but it carried the weight of unspoken emotions. I felt a spark, a possibility I hadn't dared to imagine. But doubt crept in. Was this real, or just two broken souls clinging to each other? Social conflicts mounted as word spread. My boss at the new warehouse job I'd landed pulled me aside, warning that associating with that Hargrove kid could cost me everything. Friends distanced themselves, torn between loyalty and the fear of guilt by association. Even within the fledgling LGBTQ community in the city, opinions were divided. Some saw Alex as a symbol of resistance, others as a privileged outsider invading their safe spaces. These divisions mirrored the broader societal rifts, where progress clashed with entrenched prejudices. Yet, amid the turmoil, moments of joy emerged. We attended an underground poetry reading in a dimly lit basement club, where voices rose in defiance against oppression. Alex recited a piece he'd written about lost sons and unforgiving fathers, his words raw and powerful. The applause was thunderous, and in that crowd of misfits, we found a fleeting sense of belonging. As we walked home, hand in hand under the streetlights, I realized this was more than protection. It was the beginning of something profound. But the mayor wasn't done. A private investigator showed up at my door one afternoon, offering money to send Alex on his way. I slammed the door in his face, anger boiling over. Alex overheard and confronted me, his eyes searching mine. "Why are you doing this, Ethan? Risking everything for me?" I paused, heart pounding. "Because this time I'm not letting go," I replied. It was a vow, born from the ashes of our shared pain, and in that instant, our fates intertwined irrevocably. The weeks following the investigator's visit were a whirlwind of paranoia and determination. I changed the locks on my apartment and kept a watchful eye on the streets below, convinced that Mayor Hargrove's influence extended further than we knew. Alex, sensing my unease, tried to lighten the mood with small acts of kindness, brewing my favorite coffee in the mornings or leaving notes with encouraging quotes from his beloved books. But beneath the surface, the pressure built, testing the fragile foundation of our budding relationship. One crisp autumn morning, Alex received a letter slipped under the door. It was from his mother, a woman who'd remained silent throughout the scandal, her loyalty to her husband unwavering. The note was brief, urging him to come home and make amends, promising discretion if he renounced his lifestyle. Alex crumpled it in his fist, his face a mask of betrayal and longing. "She thinks it's a choice," he said bitterly, pacing the room. I watched him, aching to ease his pain, but knowing words alone couldn't mend a family's fracture. That incident sparked our first real argument. Alex wanted to confront his parents, to demand answers and perhaps closure. I cautioned against it, fearing it would only invite more danger. "They're powerful, Alex. They could ruin us." He shot back, eyes flashing. "And hiding makes us cowards. Isn't that what they've always wanted? For people like us to disappear?" The words hung heavy, exposing the cracks in our unity. We spent the night in tense silence, each wrestling with our own demons. Reconciliation came at dawn. I found him on the fire escape, staring at the horizon where the sun was rising over Lake Michigan. "I'm scared too," I admitted, sitting beside him. "But if we face this together, maybe we can win." He turned to me, his expression softening, and in that shared vulnerability, we found strength. Our embrace was tentative at first, then fierce, a silent affirmation of the emotions we'd been circling. As fall deepened, societal pressures intensified. The mayor's re-election campaign ramped up, with billboards touting traditional values that implicitly condemned lives like ours. Protests erupted downtown, advocates for gay rights clashing with conservative groups waving signs about morality and family. Alex and I attended one rally, blending into the crowd, our hands linked in quiet defiance. But when a speaker invoked the Hargrove scandal as an example of political hypocrisy, Alex froze. Whispers rippled through the attendees, and soon eyes turned toward us. Some cheered him as a hero, others muttered about entitlement. It was a microcosm of the debates raging nationwide, where personal stories became battlegrounds for larger ideologies. Back home, the experience ignited passionate discussions between us. Alex argued for visibility, believing that coming out publicly could force change. I countered with pragmatism, drawing from my working-class roots where survival often meant discretion. Not everyone has the luxury of a platform, I said. These debates, though heated, drew us closer, revealing layers of each other's worldviews. Alex's privileged upbringing had shielded him from some harsh realities, while my struggles had forged a cautious resilience. Together, we navigated these differences, learning to compromise. A turning point came when Alex landed a job at a local bookstore, a haven for freethinkers. The owner, a grizzled veteran of the Stonewall era, took him under his wing, sharing stories of past fights for equality. Alex thrived there, surrounded by words that validated his existence. Seeing his confidence grow filled me with pride, but also a twinge of envy. I was still grinding at the warehouse, hiding my relationship to avoid scrutiny. One evening, after a long shift, I came home to find Alex poring over newspaper clippings about his father's campaign. "He's lying about everything," he said, frustration evident. We decided to dig deeper, visiting the library to research public records. What we uncovered was damning. Inconsistencies in the mayor's financial disclosures, hints of corruption tied to anti-gay organizations. It was controversial material, the kind that could spark outrage if exposed. Alex wanted to go public. I hesitated, knowing the backlash could be severe. Our dilemma culminated in a heated community meeting at a nearby church, where residents debated a proposed ordinance banning discrimination based on sexual orientation. The mayor spoke against it, citing community standards. Alex couldn't stay silent. He stood up, voice steady, and shared his story, accusing his father of hypocrisy. The room erupted. Supporters applauded. Opponents jeered. I watched from the back, heart in my throat, as flashbulbs popped and reporters swarmed. The aftermath was chaotic. Headlines screamed, "Mayor's son rebels," painting Alex as either a brave whistleblower or a vengeful ingrate. Threats arrived via phone and mail, forcing us to consider leaving the city. But in the midst of the storm, our bond solidified. Late one night, as we lay awake listening to the city's hum, Alex whispered, "Thank you for not letting go." I pulled him close, realizing that love, in all its complexity, was our greatest weapon against the world's judgments. Yet doubts lingered. Was our relationship born of circumstance, or something deeper? As winter approached, these questions loomed larger, setting the stage for greater conflicts ahead. Winter descended on Chicago with a vengeance, blanketing the city in snow that muffled the chaos but couldn't erase it. The fallout from Alex's public stand rippled through our lives like aftershocks. My workplace became a minefield of sideways glances and muttered comments. One coworker even confronted me, asking if I was one of them. I denied it, shame twisting in my gut, but the lie weighed heavy, straining the trust between Alex and me. At home, tension simmered. Alex threw himself into activism, attending meetings with emerging LGBTQ groups, his passion infectious yet exhausting. He'd come back late, eyes alight with stories of solidarity, while I nursed resentment over the risks he took. "You're putting us both in danger," I argued one stormy evening, the wind howling outside. He countered, "And silence keeps us chained. Don't you want more than this half-life?" Our words escalated into shouts, echoing the broader societal battles where progress demanded sacrifice. Reconciliation often followed these clashes, drawn out in quiet apologies and shared silences. One such night, after a particularly brutal fight, we sat on the couch, a blanket draped over us. Alex traced patterns on my hand, his touch a reminder of why we fought, to protect what we had. "I love you," he said softly, the words hanging in the air like a revelation. I froze, then pulled him into a kiss, our first true one, filled with the pent-up emotions of months. It was a turning point, transforming our connection from companionship to romance, fraught with the intensity of forbidden love. But external forces conspired against us. The mayor, facing dipping polls, launched a smear campaign, labeling Alex a troubled youth, influenced by radical elements. Reporters camped outside our building, turning our private sanctuary into a spectacle. Friends we'd made in the community offered support, but divisions emerged. Some advocated confrontation, others caution. These debates mirrored national conversations, where the fight for gay rights clashed with conservative backlash, fueling controversies over marriage, adoption, and basic dignity. Amid the turmoil, personal growth emerged. Alex encouraged me to explore my heritage, attending a Latino cultural festival where we danced under colorful lights, momentarily free from scrutiny. I, in turn, pushed him to reconcile with his past, suggesting he write letters to old friends. These efforts fostered empathy, but also unearthed painful truths. Alex admitted to past privileges, how he'd once dismissed the struggles of those less fortunate. I confessed my internalized shame, the fear that kept me closeted at work. A major conflict arose when an anonymous tip led to a police visit. They claimed reports of suspicious activity, but it felt like harassment. Alex stood firm, demanding warrants, his legal knowledge from prep school shining through. The officers left empty-handed, but the incident shook me. "This is what they do, intimidate until we break," Alex said later, his resolve stealing mine. As Christmas neared, isolation set in. Families gathered, but ours were fractured. My parents invited me home only if I came alone. Alex's ignored him entirely. We created our own traditions. A small tree decorated with paper ornaments, meals shared by candlelight. In these moments, love blossomed, a quiet rebellion against rejection. But the new year brought escalation. A conservative radio host targeted us, broadcasting inflammatory rants that incited hate mail and vandalism. Our window shattered one night by a thrown brick. Fear gripped us, but it also unified. We sought legal advice from a pro bono attorney in the LGBTQ network, learning about protections and potential lawsuits. The process was grueling, exposing us to more public scrutiny, but it empowered Alex, who began speaking at events, his story inspiring others. My own awakening came during a workplace incident. A supervisor made a derogatory joke about the mayor's fairy son, and something snapped. I confronted him, outing myself in the process. The fallout was swift. I was demoted, but the liberation was intoxicating. Alex was there when I got home, wrapping me in his arms. "Proud of you," he murmured. Yet, as our relationship deepened, external pressures mounted. Rumors swirled of the mayor's involvement in anti-gay funding, prompting investigations that drew us into the fray. Testifying meant risking everything, but backing down felt like betrayal. These choices tested our bond, forcing us to confront whether love could withstand the storm. In the end, we chose to fight, hand in hand, as spring hinted at renewal. But the battles ahead promised more controversy, challenging not just us, but the society's willingness to change. Spring arrived in Chicago with tentative warmth, melting the snow but not the chill of uncertainty that lingered in our lives. The investigations into Mayor Hargrove's dealings gained traction, fueled by leaks that traced funds to organizations promoting conversion therapy, practices decried as abusive but still legal in many states. Alex became a key witness, his testimony a damning indictment of his father's double life. The media frenzy intensified, painting our relationship as either a heroic stand or a scandalous affair, igniting public debates that divided families and friends. At home, the strain showed. Sleepless nights plagued us, with Alex poring over documents while I worried about his safety. "What if they come after you?" I asked one evening, as we sat on the fire escape, the city buzzing below. He squeezed my hand. "Then we'll face it together." That's what love means. His words reassured, but doubt festered. Was I strong enough for this fight? Social conflicts peaked during a city council hearing on the anti-discrimination ordinance. Supporters packed the hall, signs waving in solidarity, while opponents quoted scripture and warned of moral decay. Alex spoke eloquently, sharing how rejection had nearly destroyed him, urging compassion. I watched from the audience, heart swelling with pride, but tension escalated when a heckler shouted slurs. Security intervened, but the incident underscored the raw hatred still prevalent. In the aftermath, we faced personal repercussions. My family reached out, my sister pleading for reconciliation, but only on their terms, acceptance without acknowledgement of Alex. It hurt, forcing me to choose between blood and love. Alex's mother made a clandestine visit, tears in her eyes as she begged him to withdraw his statements. "Your father is a good man," she insisted. Alex refused, his voice steady. "Good men don't abandon their children." The encounter left him shattered, questioning if forgiveness was possible. These family rifts mirrored broader societal divides, where tradition clashed with evolving norms. Friends took sides. Some distanced themselves, fearing association. Others rallied, forming a support network that included diverse voices from the community. One ally, a transgender activist named Maria, shared her story of exile, drawing parallels that fostered deeper understanding between Alex and me. Amid the chaos, intimate moments sustained us. A weekend escape to a cabin in Wisconsin offered respite, hikes through budding forests, evenings by the fire where we dreamed of a future unburdened by judgment. "One day, we'll have a home, a life without hiding," Alex whispered. I believed him, our love a beacon in the darkness. But reality intruded upon our return. A tabloid published invasive photos, speculating on our illicit romance. The invasion sparked outrage, but also support from unexpected quarters, celebrities and politicians voicing solidarity. The controversy amplified our voices, but at a cost. Increased threats, including a chilling letter warning of consequences. Determined, we pressed on. Alex organized a fundraiser for LGBTQ youth, drawing crowds and donations. I volunteered, finding purpose in the cause. Yet, internal conflicts arose when Alex considered running for office someday, a path I viewed as perilous. Power corrupts, I warned, echoing lessons from my blue-collar upbringing. He argued it was a chance to change the system from within. Our debate reached a climax during a heated dinner with allies. Opinions flew, some championed reform, others revolution. Alex's passion clashed with my caution, leading to a temporary rift. Alone that night, I reflected on my fears, realizing they stemmed from love, not doubt. Reunion came with vulnerability. "I can't do this without you," Alex admitted. We recommitted, stronger for the trial. As summer approached, the mayor's trial loomed, promising revelations that could topple empires. Our role in it cemented our legacy, but also invited danger. Choices loomed: testify and risk all, or retreat and betray our principles. In the end, we chose truth, our love the anchor in the storm. But as events unfolded, questions of morality and justice hung in the balance, challenging everyone involved. Summer heat enveloped Chicago, turning the city into a pressure cooker as the mayor's trial commenced. The courthouse steps swarmed with protesters and press, a cacophony of chants and cameras that amplified every emotion. Alex took the stand with poise, detailing the abandonment and the hidden dealings, his voice unwavering despite the defense's attempts to discredit him as embittered. I sat in the gallery, gripping the railing, as the revelations unfolded: bribes, cover-ups, all tied to a web of intolerance. The trial became a national spectacle, sparking debates on cable news about family, power, and hypocrisy. Supporters hailed Alex as a truth-teller. Detractors labeled him a traitor. Our relationship was dissected publicly, with pundits questioning its authenticity. Was it love or leverage? These controversies fueled social media storms, dividing opinions along ideological lines. Back home, exhaustion set in. Alex collapsed after each session, haunted by his father's cold stare across the courtroom. "He looked at me like a stranger," he confided. I held him, offering comfort, but my own anxieties mounted. Job security waned as my outing spread, and anonymous calls escalated to stalking. A pivotal moment came when evidence surfaced of the mayor's direct involvement in funding hate groups. The revelation shocked even his allies, leading to resignations and calls for impeachment. Alex's testimony was instrumental, but it cost him. Estranged relatives surfaced, accusing him of destroying the family name. Societal backlash intensified. Conservative rallies decried the trial as a witch hunt, while pride events celebrated it as progress. We attended one parade, surrounded by rainbows and cheers, a brief oasis of acceptance. But reality bit when a counter-protester hurled insults, reminding us change was incremental. Personal growth peaked amid the ordeal. I quit my job, starting a small auto repair business with savings, embracing my identity openly. Alex pursued writing, penning essays on resilience that gained traction. Our love evolved, deepened by adversity. Nights spent planning futures, debating ethics, always circling back to us. But a final conflict arose. The mayor offered a plea deal, conditional on Alex's silence. Temptation flickered, peace for complicity. We argued fiercely. "It's not just about us," Alex insisted. "It's about everyone they've hurt." I agreed, but fear lingered. In court, Alex rejected the deal, sealing his father's fate. Conviction followed, a landmark victory, but bittersweet. Alex mourned the man his father could have been. As dust settled, we moved to a quieter suburb, building a life together. Society shifted slowly, inspired by our story, but scars remained. Years later, reflecting on that rainy night in 1998, I wondered, was holding on the right choice, or did it perpetuate the cycle of pain? Was Ethan's refusal to let go an act of true love, or a selfish grasp that prolonged unnecessary suffering?